Hi everyone, welcome to another Sunday morning. Uh, we have Mudit with us today. Uh, give me a sec. Hi Mudit, welcome to Xartup.
Hey man, hi.
Thanks for coming up and spending some of your time today with us. Hopefully it will be an amazing session for everyone who has joined us and everyone who will be watching this video later on. So giving a brief introduction about Mudit for the folks present over here. Mudit is a seasoned blockchain entrepreneur. He is the co-founder and CTO of Drife. So Mudit, would like to hear from you. Let's jump to the point that we are going to discuss today. Mostly let's start with the 0 to 1 story of Drive. How did you come up with the idea? How did you meet your co-founders? Because most of the folks over here are coming from a very early stage background. That would be very helpful for them.
Got it. So I think before I start, I'll quickly just, tell you that a lot of what I say is going to be pertinent to the blockchain Web3 startups more than it will be pertinent for the, traditional Web2 startups. Although some of it might still be, overlapping and relevant, but I think a lot of it might still be true for blockchain, crypto, Web3 startups. But yeah, having said that, I think Drive as an idea was born when one of my co-founders she was taking a ride on one of the regular centralized players, and while on the ride, she encountered. I mean, the driver basically asked her to cancel the ride, and she was going to the airport. So he said that you cancel the ride, I'm going to take you for around 30-40% lesser. So I'm going to take you for much lesser than what is being shown to you. So she was slightly, taken aback. I mean, there was of course the concern of safety and all of that, but beyond that, it got her thinking about why this is happening, what is wrong, and this is the case with a lot of us that we do not understand how this entire model works. I mean, um, we take the entire experience of ride hailing at our fingertips, using our mobile apps. We take it for granted. We do not understand how it works behind the scenes. So I think that is when it struck her how the commission-based model works, wherein the drivers have to pay a certain amount of commission per ride, per day, per ride that they take essentially. So which can go up from anywhere between 25 to about 40%. Um, so yeah, that is when she sort of got into thinking about how uh, we could build a more scalable, a more robust model, a more sustainable model, essentially, without levying such heavy commissions. And that is when she was of the opinion that blockchain could help, which is when sort of she and my other co-founder, they started looking for someone to help them with the blockchain side of things, and that is when I came across, found them on Telegram. So I think Telegram is one of the good places um, to be if you're looking for developers. I think Telegram and Discord, not just developers, but like core team members, foundation, like the founding team members. If you're looking for them, it's a good place to hunt for devs and for technical guys, maybe even for non-technical guys. So so yeah, that's kind of how we came across one another, and yeah, I mean, this happened back, I think, in 2018. It took us a while to actually formulate the idea in itself. So I mean, we saw a lot of players, a lot of people doing something similar. Not a lot, but a few people. I mean, there was one big entity called Arcade City, which was built on Ethereum. They were trying to build a ride-hailing application on blockchain, a decentralized ride-hailing application themselves. But and there were other few such players as well. But what we realized is that a lot of them just pick up the Uber model and completely dumped it on a blockchain, which we thought is not a good idea of doing things. Is not a good way of doing things, because blockchain essentially is not like it's not some magic wand. It's not some I mean, a lot of people think it is, but it's not some magic component that'll solve all your problems. It has to be used appropriately. So I think that is where a lot of people make a mistake. They just put the entire existing Web2 business model on a Web3 tech stack, thinking that the change of the tech stack will solve the problems, which does not happen, does not work that way. So it took us a while, actually. That was, I think, the core part of the journey. I mean, there's a common saying that if you want to cut a tree, if you got about, let's say, 10 hours to cut a tree, you should spend 9 hours sharpening your axe. So I think that is what we did. We spent a good amount of time in actually conceiving the business model in our head and on a piece of paper, how it should be, what should make us different from Uber and Ola and Grab and Lyft and Bolt and all of these other players. So how we make ourselves different. Um, so I think that time that we spend helped us, differentiate our product and make it suitable, uh, with a suitable business model, make it suitable for a blockchain. I think for a blockchain or a decentralized ledger infrastructure. So I think that, I mean, we can talk more about what makes us different and what we decided and what we did, but that's kind of the journey that we spent about a year and a half, or maybe even uh, 2 years, to actually 2.5 years, to figure out what the product is going to be, gradually building on top of it, gradually envisioning it. And I think, yeah, that's kind of what it was.
That's amazing. I think it makes sense for a lot of us that whenever we try using Uber or Ola, mostly in India, people try to eliminate the middleman or the commission-based platforms, and they try
Hmm.
to take the pricing from the customer themselves. So that's a genuine problem that you figured out. So let's just focus on your product, as in how did you go from just an idea or figuring out just the problem which exists in the market to coming up with an MVP or a product?
Yeah. So we actually started off with just this one idea of being a commission free platform, right? That's the whole essence of our product. Which I think then we thought, how would the revenue model work? So then came the second part of the picture, which was we plug in a subscription model. So our application is now a subscription based platform, and instead of a commission based platform. So the drivers, as of now, I mean, as of now, it's on sort of pilot, but eventually they pay some subscription fee per day, per week, per month, depending on what sort of plan you want to get into. And there would be different types of plans depending on how much you want to use the system. So if you want to just take a few rides and not get heavily involved, then you take a lower subscription plan and things like that. So the first thing that we configured in was the subscription plan, which would replace the commission model. Then I think we spend a lot of time in figuring out I mean, how to do I mean, if you see, the other major component is the dynamic pricing and the ride allocation in any ride hailing application, right? So then I think most of our time was spent in figuring out how our ride matching, how our dispatch system would work, how the ride pricing would happen. I mean, so we realized that all of the incumbent, companies in the market, they work on a very similar model of both dynamic pricing and ride allocation. I mean, it's called surge pricing in a lot of these, or Lyft calls it prime time pricing, but you can call it with different names. Ultimately, it is very simple. When the demand goes up, the platform shoots up the price with a 1.5x, 1.8x, 2x multiply. You see this all the time, right? I mean, especially out here in Bangalore, it's crazy. So um, we wanted to do something different. We realized that uh, being a middleman that dictates prices, and on top of those prices dictates commissions, is a very broken model, because what happens is you become a complete black box. I mean, at any time of the day, if you're charged a 1.4x or a 1.8x, there's no good there's no good reason for you to believe that it should be 1.8x. I mean, it's completely opaque. There's no transparency whatsoever for the customer to understand why the price should be what it is. So apart from that, there are other problems like it there is hyper personalization. For example, I mean, if you I mean, your spending patterns would be different from mine, right? And your income and other metrics would be different from mine. So you would receive a hyper personalized price, and I would receive a different price for the same route at the same time, from the same pickup to same drop, right? Similarly, if you are getting a ride from, let's say, from a seven-star boutique hotel, and instead, if you're taking the ride from the chai wala dhaba opposite the, the same hotel, the prices would be different. So things like this we realized are big issues. plus on a ride to, let's say, for example, a ride to the airport, the same distance time, and a ride to somewhere else in the city, the commission would be different for the driver. So things like these also come into the picture, and the commissions at different times of the day would vary. So it's not a fixed commission that Uber, Ola, and all of these entities charge. It's not like, flat 10%, flat 20%. Of course, some people are coming up with that, but most of the times the commission also varies. At some ride it could be less, at some ride it could be more. So essentially, the drivers who are supposed to be, technically they're supposed to be independent contractors. They're not the employees of Uber, they're not the employees of Ola, right? They're independent contractors in the network. But I mean, as independent contractors, they enter into ride contracts or ride agreements without actually knowing the full details. They do not know what the pickup is, they do not know what the drop is, they do not know what the fare is, they do not know what the mode of payment is, they do not know how much commission is being charged. So essentially, they do not know anything about the ride when they actually enter into some contract, essentially, right? So this is when I think we realized that this model is broken, and we came up with a new model, which is basically it's currently a patent pending dynamic pricing model, which is some sort of a bi-directional auction mechanism. Very simply, it's a negotiation model. So as a user, you can quote how much you want to pay for a ride. You can, increase the price from your end when you sort of want to take a ride. And the more I mean, we call it boost in the application. So you can boost your ride. That's how we call it. But the more you boost your ride, the more your chances, the more likelihood there is of you getting a ride. Because two things. One is, of course, the more you pay, the higher chances. That is obvious, right? The second part is, the more you boost your ride, the more we increase your search area. So the more number of drivers get eligible for this ride, right? And after this, what we did was, once you boost the ride, the request sent to drivers, the drivers can put in their counter code. They can also counter code on the ride. So if there's a ride of 100 rupees, you say I want to go for 120 bucks, the drivers can come back to you with, let's say, 130. Someone can come to you, okay, I'm willing to go for 120. Someone can give you a 10 rupees discount as well. If they've not received a ride for, let's say, the last 3-4 hours, and they want to get a ride, so they can give you a discount. So at the end of the day, you get a list of drivers and you can choose one. This is where the cool part comes in. So as a rider, as a passenger, till now you never had a choice about who you want to go with. Whether you want to go with the nearest driver, whether you want to go with the highest rated driver, whether you want to go with the cheapest driver. That option has never existed. But now, depending on the time, place, circumstances, depending on what your requirements at that particular time of day are, um, you can choose to optimize for fare, cheapest fare. You can choose to optimize for the highest rated driver. You can choose to optimize for the time to pick up. I mean, if you're in a hurry, you might not mind paying extra for the quickest ride that you can get. So these sorts of, I think the essential conclusion of all of this is that we added what was lacking: transparency and the freedom to choose. The choice, and the flexibility, freedom of being independent entities in the network, free agents in the network, without being bound by the platform dictating prices, platform dictating your driver, and all of this being completely transparent because it is put on a smart contract which is running on a blockchain. So I think this is one of the major differentiators that we had. Similarly, we gradually, built layer by layer different pieces. We also differentiated our entire operational model. So we do not operate the way Uber operates, where Uber actually goes to different parts of the world, runs operations themselves. We rolled out an NFT-based franchisee model to help us, um, uh, quickly scale up. So each city of the world, we create an NFT which is called an FNFT, a franchisee NFT. That's a new creation that we have done. Traditionally, NFTs are used for JPEGs or audio and very silly stuff. But we came up with, I think, a real world use case of NFTs, using it for franchising purposes. So this helps us basically scale operations very quickly. I can release 10 NFTs and people can come bid for it. Whoever wins the NFT gets the rights to operate the taxi service on behalf of Drive using our technology in that area for a period of 3 years, right? So this helps us, quickly scale up without having to actually penetrate different markets ourselves. Um, I mean, imagine, right? The market of Delhi is very different from how the market of Mumbai is, which is very different from how the market of Bangalore is. And this is all in the same country, yeah. Uh, Imagine how different the market of New York versus how different the market of Paris versus how different the market of, I don't know, London versus, you get the idea, right? So instead of us going to different cities and learning how the market works and then trying to penetrate, it makes more sense to sort of decentralize the operations, to let people who know that area the best operate it, and we provide the technology and they operate it. This lets us scale up quickly. So I mean, coming back to I think where I started from, it took us a while to actually figure out the different facets. And I would suggest that to a lot of founders, because what I see is that they jump into actually trying to execute things or trying to come up with features and things very quickly without actually figuring out how I am going to be different from the other entities in the market. Because you can never build a product which has no competitors. And I wouldn't say it's even advised to build a product which has no competitors, because then you've got no validation. You might create something which is fantastic, or you might just create something which is absolute bullshit because nobody wants it, right? So most of the situations, I think, when you've got competitors, you've got to find that perfect, I think, a product market fit, which comes by this iterative ideation process that goes behind building a product, which I think at times remains unseen. And a lot of founders get dejected when that time is going, because एक साल बस बैठ के you have to think on the product, you have to sort of conceive it कि कैसा, how will it work. Nothing factually is happening then. So that's a little hard period. But if you survive that, there is bright light, I would say, at the end of that tunnel. So yeah, I mean, we created other such features, but I think I'm going to stop now and hopefully make sure that that whatever I was trying to say is conveyed appropriately.
Definitely. That's quite a lot of innovation on top of real world problem solving. So, how did you interact with your customers to understand their actual needs, sort of customer development activities? If you can help us understand from your own journey, like how was the initial version look like, and how did you evolve from there then and onwards?
Absolutely. So I think initially we didn't honestly take a lot of feedback, because I mean, two out of the three of our founders were very active users of online cabs, of on-demand ride-hailing platforms, and we had been using them a lot, and we weren't. So I see a lot of people take a very customer centric or a consumer driven approach, which I think is very good. But I think it's very important that as a founder, you also pay heed. I mean, data driven approaches, customer centric approaches are important, but they can only validate your gut as a founder. What is most important is that you have conviction in that gut feeling of yours, which that sort of a that sort of a human intelligence which tells you what the right thing to do is, instead of relying on the hundreds of people that you talk to, because you are trying to solve a problem. They're not trying to solve a problem. They can just give you some gyan, and they can just uh, do some banter, but at the end of the day you have to sort of have conviction in what I think idea you have. So yeah, so I think initially we did get validated from a few customers. A lot of people gave us feedback that this will make the process longer, that this will make it difficult. But I think we went ahead, and I think now we are seeing a lot of people appreciate this quite a bit. And so I mean, I don't know. Personally, I think that you should have a good amount of conviction in what you're trying to do. Get some basic validations from people that you have faith on, the people that you can trust, instead of doing a random survey, and collect a lot of data points, because then you've got a lot of data overload, and it becomes hard to make sense of that data, because a lot of that data is biased. A lot of that data is just random, because you force someone to fill it, they're filling it for the sake of it, right? So I think that conviction and that gut feeling that you have as a founder is very important to stick along.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Like putting a filter on all the customer conversations and trying
Absolutely.
to
Yeah, yeah.
make sense of what is a problem that is being solved. Makes sense. Moving forward, Mudit, let's navigate towards blockchain as a space altogether, because you have been a founder in this space from a long term, I guess. So a lot of folks who have joined us are also doing something in the blockchain space. So how would you recommend someone who is starting up something new in the blockchain space? Let's keep it as a blockchain 101 session for the non-technical founders as well.
Okay, sir, can I ask some questions
Sure.
also?
I think it's a
Hello?
good time to stop and see if people have questions. I think someone probably has a question.
Hello?
Sure.
Yeah.